Hey there folks, it's just me, your friendly neighborhood Walter Shepherd. And yes, even after all these years, after all this time, I'm still not comfortable saying my name or being in front of the camera. Although I have become a little more confident in front of the camera over the years. Especially if you go back to my earlier videos from 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you can see how awkward I was in front of it. So anyway, I wasn't going to speak about this particular subject until next week, but all this week I've had conversations on both Facebook and YouTube about this particular subject, so I will address it now, and that is the subject of hell. The KJV, I believe, is still the most reliable version of the Bible out there. But even the KJV has its shortcomings. And one of those shortcomings being the word hell. Because if you go back to the original language that was that the Bible was written in, the Hebrew, the Greek, and the Aramaic, they use 5 different words to speak about 5 different places that are known as hell, that the KJV calls hell. Whoever specifically wrote the KJV didn't want to come up with a specific word for each of those 5 different places. So they just used the one word to cover all 5. But if you look in the original languages, all 5 talk about a different aspect of hell. And those 5 are, oh yeah, also I've also made past videos of this, so if you want to use the little magnifying glass search engine, you can check the Bible verses that I've talked about and things like that there. But anyway, the 5 words that are used throughout the Bible in the original written languages are Sheol, Hades, Tartarus, Gehenna, and even Paradise, and I will get into that in a second. Sheol specifically refers to the grave, that is, the ground, where a body is buried. And then sometimes it's referred to the underworld. That's the word Sheol, S-H-E-O-L. That is the one that is most popularly or most commonly used in the Old Testament. The other words would be Hades, and Hades is the holding place for the human soul. Tartarus, that is hell or prison for the souls of the demons or the fallen angels or the Nephilim, the dark spirits. I will just call them all as dark spirits. So the dark spirits have their own hell. And Gehenna is another word for hell, but Gehenna specifically refers to the lake of fire. And the last word would be paradise, or Abraham's bosom. And I will get into that in a second. So now we can see why there is so much confusion when people say they went to hell and they describe all this burning fire and stuff like that. I have to question that, because right now the lake of fire is empty. There is nobody in the lake of fire right now. The first people that are going to be thrown there will be the false prophet and the Antichrist. But I'll get into that in a second. Okay, let's just start over from the beginning. Not from the beginning, from the first word, Sheol. Sheol, that is the grave where the bodies are buried. And sometimes it refers to the underworld. Hades, as I said before, that is a holding place for the soul. Sometimes it is called outer darkness. And from what I've learned, when a human being, right now in our day and age, right now in our time, when a human being dies, their soul goes to Hades, and it awaits judgment until the final day of judgment. And there's nobody else around. Outer darkness is just it's like the soul being put in a closet. The human soul, when it's in Hades, it doesn't have any arms, it doesn't have any feet, it can't be a ghost, it can't run anywhere. Hades is sometimes referred to as the place of weeping and gnashing of teeth. And if you go back to the original languages and the original meanings, weeping and gnashing of teeth is now referring to demons. Weeping and gnashing of teeth refers specifically to weeping, crying, that is a person living in regret, and gnashing of teeth is an Old Testament expression or an Old Bible expression referring to anger. So when the Bible is talking about hell being a place of weeping and gnashing of teeth, that means that the human soul that is in Hades is living there in extreme regret. They're crying because they made the wrong choices, and they know that they are in Hades, and they are angry with themselves, and they are angry at God. So the weeping and gnashing of teeth refers to the torment of the human soul. And nowhere in the Bible does it say that human souls are tortured. Again, that is something somebody has added that is not in the Bible. That's one of the things that I looked up. I did this research in about 96. Between now and 96, I've scoured the Bible, searching all the verses that refer to hell. And another thing, nowhere in the Bible does it say Satan lives in hell. Satan does not live in hell. Satan has no control over the souls that are in hell. That's just one of his lies to make himself seem more powerful. So Sheol is the grave, Hades is the prison or the holding place for the human soul until Judgment Day, and Tartarus, that is the holding place or the prison for all the dark spirits. After the rapture, when Satan takes control of the planet, Tartarus is going to be opened. And all those demon souls, all those dark souls, all those Nephilim souls that are in there are going to be released onto the earth. And it's the gates of hell, in terms of Tartarus, the gates of hell are going to be set loose. And all the dark spirits are going to be not creating a good time on the earth. Again, I shudder because I've had a lot of visions over the past 5 years about life during the tribulation, and it is not a pleasant thing, not at all in the least. Okay, and the fourth word would be Gehenna, and that specifically refers to the lake of fire. Right now, the lake of fire is empty. There's nobody in the lake of fire. Nobody goes in the lake of fire until after the final time of judgment. And the final time of judgment happens after the 1,000 years of peace. The 1,000 years of peace happens after Armageddon and Apocalypse, and that happens after the tribulation period, and that happens after the rapture. So that's basically a timeline. So when a person dies now, a unrepentant person, an unsaved person, their soul goes to Hades, and it waits there, just thinking about thinking about their choices, and it stays there for at least 1,000 years. If you combine the millennium of peace with the tribulation period, if the rapture were to happen today, then that particular unsaved soul would be staying in Hades for 1,007 years until the final time of judgment comes along, where all the souls of everybody from Adam and Eve onward up until Armageddon, all those people, their souls will rise out of Hades, and they will get their bodies back. All those unrepentant people, they also will get their bodies back. Their bodies will be regenerated, and their souls will come back into their body, and they will be judged. And if their name is not found written in the Lamb's Book of Life, then they get thrown into the lake of fire. Then they get thrown into Gehenna. That is the second death. So the first death is when we have the bodies now, and they die. The soul and the body are separated, and then after the 1,000 years of peace, on the final time of judgment, all the unrepentant, unsaved people, their souls come back into their regenerated body. Then they're judged, and if their names are found written in the Lamb's Book of Life, they get immortality. If not, they have to experience a second death, and that death is in the lake of fire. And then Hades itself, that prison is going to be thrown into the lake of fire. Because I've had that some person criticize that view, and they say, well, how can hell be thrown in hell? And again, why would they say that? Because they haven't done the research, because they're basing their opinion on an English translation, and they have not gone back to the original language that the Word of God is written in. Okay, and finally would be paradise. When it comes to paradise, that is a place that Jesus referred to when he was talking to the cross, or to the thief on the cross. When the thief on the cross recognized Jesus as the Son of God, Jesus said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." He wasn't referring to heaven, because paradise is also known as the bosom of Abraham. And back before Jesus was crucified, the bosom of Abraham, if you read that story about the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, the rich man was in hell, and Lazarus was in a section of hell, in a subsection of hell, which would be Abraham's bosom. Paradise would be, how can I put it, a place between hell and heaven. It is a place where the good people went, because these people were not good enough to go to heaven, but they weren't bad enough to go to hell. So they went to a middle ground, and that middle ground would have been called paradise. It's comfortable, but it's not as cool as heaven. It has hell in sight, so those people are thankful that they weren't so bad that they ended up in hell. So they ended up in paradise. And the parts of the Bible that says Jesus had to go to hell for 3 days, as Jonah was in the fish for 3 days, Jesus had to go to hell for 3 days. That's what they were talking about. Jesus was in paradise. Jesus was in hell for those 3 days. And that's where he talked to all the captives that were in hell. And that's where Jesus released all the captives from hell. So when Jesus went to heaven, he took all those people that were in hell, that were in paradise, and he took them to heaven. So right now, paradise is empty. There's nobody in there anymore. In that particular section of hell, there's nobody there. Right now, there's nobody in the lake of fire. And right now, most of the bodies, when they die, if they're not cremated in our day and age, they go into Sheol. They go into a grave. And right now, when a unrepentant soul dies, it goes to Hades, the prison holding place, to await the final time of judgment. And one day soon, after the rapture, hell or Tartarus is going to be opened, and all those dark spirits are going to leave there, and they're going to roam the planet, and they're going to create hell on earth, and it's going to be horrible. So anyway, those are the 5 distinctions of hell. So I hope that clears it up. Satan does not live in hell. Satan does not control souls in hell. The only one that controls souls and can send them into hell is God himself. The Bible clearly tells us that God owns all the souls. So when a person says they sold their soul to the devil, Satan does not own those souls. The people who say that are talking about the people who literally work with the Freemasons or the Illuminati, and they sign a piece of paper with their own blood. That technically on paper is selling their soul, but again, the Illuminati or the Masons, they have no way of controlling a soul. They have no way of actually owning a soul. Only God has control over souls. So that's more or less just a phrase, selling your soul to the devil, because the devil has no control over souls either. He just likes to he likes to tell a lot of lies to make himself look more powerful, because he's actually really small. He's actually a third-rate angel. He sat under Gabriel and under Michael, the Archangel Michael. So anyway, that is hell, Sheol, Hades, Tartarus, Gehenna, and paradise, or Abraham's bosom. I can see my time is coming to an end, so I will end that right here, my little chat about hell. So I hope that makes things a little more clear for you people out there to understand. That's why you need to read the Bible, so you can find these distinctions, and you can see the enemy's lies, because the enemy does lie a lot about what's in the Bible. And if he has infiltrated a lot of churches, he can use those church leaders to mislead the congregation, especially those who do not read the Bible. So read your Bible cover to cover, pray, and be a blessing out there in the world, the people around you. So I guess that's about it. We'll see you at the Eastgate meetup. So take care, stay in prayer. We will see you in Jesus' kingdom somewhere over there, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of you somewhere up in the air already. Remember, Jesus rules.